guys, just give me one moment. Give me 1 second. We're just working on a technical issue here. Okay, looks like we are live. Well, good evening, everybody. Today is July 28th, 2023. It's a late start. It's about 9:08 p.m. But I think we have a lot to talk about today. Very, very busy week on Wall Street, as you all know. We had tons of notable earnings reports coming out, and also we ended the week with some inflation data. In addition to that, we also heard from the Federal Reserve. Hold on, I just got to fix one thing in the chat. YouTube changed their sort of, what do you call it, their layout on my end, so I just have to get accustomed to it. Give me 1 minute. Does the chat look different on you guys' end, or maybe it just looks different on mine? Let me know in the chat if you guys are seeing all of the other chats. Anyway, I guess it doesn't matter. Yeah, what I wanted to talk about though today is a little bit more, go into a little bit of a deeper dive into Meta's earnings report. Now, one of the things that we've been talking about specifically in relation to these social networking platforms, right? You think about Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, which is now called X, and many of the others, TikTok and the like. One of the main, I would say one of the main characteristics of these companies is the conversion rates for their advertising. So one of the encouraging things in Meta's earnings report was that Reels specifically is showing a very high conversion rate for advertisers. So if you went through line item by line item throughout the earnings report, you would see advertising spend is up, which sort of makes sense, right? If you think about correlation causation there, it would make sense that if conversion rates are trending higher on a particular platform, advertisers would be more likely to spend more money on their advertising dollars, right? And this has been a big problem for X. I need to get in the habit in calling Twitter X. I'm not sure how that's going to work out, but that's been a big problem for them. So we'll talk about that tonight. I'm going to go ahead and close the laptop, and we will get started on the stream. So allow me just a couple moments here. Troy Atman, the mic may sound better than usual because I'm talking directly into it. I usually have it clipped on like my shirt or something. Hold on 1 second. Okay, hopefully the mic is good. Sorry about that, just a little bit distracted because they changed the They just changed up the layout feature. So in the studio, when I'm trying to start up the live stream, it's just a little bit different. So I was just a little bit confused on how that's going to show up on your end. But yeah, welcome everybody. We have an awesome view of the Empire State Building. Absolutely fantastic here. What I think we're going to do, it may be a shorter than normal stream. It's extremely hot out today. Crazy. In Midtown Manhattan, I think it got up to a high of like 102 degrees, or at least it felt like 102 degrees today, which was insane. I was actually in Brooklyn the majority of the day. I was in Red Hook, working on a project I'm really, really excited about. Hopefully I'll be able to share that with you guys very soon. It's been hotter than usual in all parts of the country. Hopefully you guys are staying hydrated and staying safe tonight. British Grey is here, Gary Carpenter, Line Sync. Good to see you. Austin City Limits, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us. Daniel, welcome. This is a good, very, steamy and hot Friday night from Connecticut. It is really humid and really, really hot out tonight for sure. So maybe we'll only go on for like an hour or so. Ryan Beck, what's up? Always a pleasure to see you. Bill, Richard Vogel, Irish Toker, and Michelle Henry says, be safe, the heat is something not to play with. Yeah, we won't be playing around too much. I think I'm staying hydrated. I think we're doing well. So I guess we'll jump right into it. I want to head up to Lincoln Center tonight. We haven't been there in a while, and I feel like Lincoln Center is a very underexplored part of the city, at least as it relates to this live stream. Very seldom do we ever get the chance to get up there. So hopefully I'll be able to get you guys up there tonight on the live stream. Paula Burnell is here. What's up? This is good evening, Tom. Hope you're having a good week. I had a great week. It's been very busy for me, but busy is always very good. Right? Busy means that, business is happening. And one of the things that I could say about New York, I'm seeing the interest. Maybe I shouldn't say start to come back, because people have always been interested in wanting to come to New York, but I think more so this summer. And maybe it's just a little bit of an anecdote because, this is really the first summer that you have so many people. I would essentially say everybody feeling 100% comfortable with going out, doing things, from the pandemic, right? Also, I've noticed a huge pickup in tourist activity. And pretty soon what's going to happen is we're going to have all of our students back in the city. So I think people are trying to get the arrangements started now for housing, where are they going to live, where are they going to rent. So right around this time is actually where the rental market in New York really picks up. And it's very hard to get good deals. If you're looking to sign a lease, pretty much any time between now and Labor Day, very difficult to get a deal. Usually everybody settles in before the start of the school year, and usually after the holidays, January, February is really when you could get the majority of the deals. But I don't know, I just feel as if the city is more full this summer as it relates to last summer. I'm not sure if you guys noticed that on the streams, but at least that's what it seems for me anyway. We are streaming directly outside of the Moynihan train hall on the right. Gorgeous shot of the Empire State Building right in front of us. Hey, Ryan Beck is here. What's up? John Julius is good evening, Tom and chat. Always a pleasure to see you. D is here. Golden City, welcome. Richard Vogel, thanks for joining us. Now, what did you guys think about sort of the action-packed week we had as it related to earnings? Now, this is going to continue well into next week when we have Tim Cook and Apple reporting, ticker symbol AAPL. We are also going to have Amazon, right? Ticker symbol AMZN. And that's pretty much going to round out the bulkhead of the big tech, I would say mega cap tech earnings. Now, from my standpoint, I was actually quite impressed. this earnings season. It's definitely not the type of, I should say, earnings reports that you would see in a recession. Many notable economists have been calling for one and, sort of pounding the table about a recession this, recession that. Over the last year, just hasn't happened. I actually think earnings have been really, really strong, better than expected, with almost every single major big tech company beating on both the top and the bottom line. We saw Alphabet have a pretty big beat. They beat on their EPS, which is bottom line. They also beat on revenue. But the most important thing, in my view, from Google's earnings report was the profitability on Google Cloud, right? Continuing the revenue growth on Google Cloud, which is fantastic. If you think about this time last year, right? So the same quarter this time last year, I'm actually getting distracted by Billy Joel. You guys see this? Let me zoom in on that for a moment. So Billy Joel, The Garden, Friday, February 9th. I may have to try to go to that. That's fantastic. I can't believe that's going to be the last time he's going to perform in Madison Square Garden. Can you guys believe that? Now, is there anybody in the chat? Is there anybody in the chat that's been lucky enough to see Billy Joel live in the Garden at MSG? Buy the books. Billy Joel is amazing, isn't he? Nakos is awesome. I know, GGNYC is like, you have to see Billy Joel. I think I have to. This is going to be my last shot to do it. Now, tickets are probably just going to be astronomical. It's going to be nuts. I'm curious. Maybe if somebody live could look it up on Ticketmaster, or if you go to billyjoelmsg.com. That is billyjoelmsg.com. What do you think the tickets are going for? I wouldn't be surprised if it sells out relatively soon. That I wouldn't be surprised at all. I think we'll make a left here. This is on the corner of 8th Avenue and West 33rd Street. This is right outside the old post office in Moynihan Train Hall. I know, buy the books as you have to go, you'll regret it. I think you're right. I think I probably will regret it. Look, so long as the tickets are not like $1,000 or something crazy, I think I'll probably bite the bullet and go. It's quite literally a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, right? This is going to be the last time he's performing here, which is just honestly a New York icon. Hey, Hawaii, what's up? Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Arctic Paratrooper says, good evening, Tom. Stay safe. Thank you. It is extremely hot and humid night. It was an extremely hot day today. I was traveling all over Brooklyn. Leitha says, Billy Joel. Tickets at MSG, $179 all the way up to what, $2,000 was that? They're probably going to get more expensive as time progresses, that's for sure. I don't know, I'll keep you guys posted, we'll see. Robert is here, says hello, Tom and friends. What's up, Robert? But I sort of lost my train of thought there. But I think you guys sort of understand, what went on. I mean, we've hammered on this and covered in depth pretty much every major company that reported this week, including Microsoft. And I think these infrastructure plays, like owning Amazon, owning Alphabet, Google, right, owning Microsoft. I think these infrastructure plays are very important. Cloud computing is essentially the growth driver and the growth engine of the internet, and it's going to be the growth driver and growth engine of AI and artificial intelligence. So whenever you can own a platform, right? Azure, AWS, Google Cloud, even though they all compete with each other, I wouldn't be surprised if revenue quite literally almost doubles across the board over the next decade. I would see that being very, very easy to do. So, these stocks have been performing well. I think for the week, the S&P finished up about 1%. Small caps are starting to participate as well. If you want to look at the Russell 2000, ticker symbol IWM, that's starting to participate. I think the VIX even cratered today. I think the VIX was down 20% on the day. Hey, Jim Lester says good evening from Los Angeles. What's up, Jim? Thanks for joining us. Welcome to Midtown Manhattan. Hopefully it's a little bit cooler where you are. Let's actually try to cross the street here. There's going to be a little bit better view of the Empire from across the street. This is headed towards the Hudson Yards. Sunshine after rain. Abdul is here. What's up? Ed Dunkel. What's up, Ed? This is MSTR. Now that's the ticker symbol for MicroStrategy with our good pal. How can I forget his name? Hey, Troy Atman says, Tom, if you personally had to buy one stock and hold it for the next 3 years, what stock would you pick? If you can't answer, then what industry? Yeah, I think it's an interesting question, but I don't like to answer those type of questions for a specific reason, because narratives could change overnight, and you need to be willing to pivot and adapt. So I would never, if I build a thesis on a stock, and I commit capital to it, if the thesis changes, I'm going to blow out the position and I'm going to get out of it. But, themes and narratives, I'm very bullish and have been bullish. Cybersecurity, cloud computing, and AI, I would say would be the big three. And you really want to try, and this is just a conversation, right? It's not advice. It's my opinion. I think you really want to try to own infrastructure. You want to own the engine that's going to drive all of this growth, if you will. So I'll give you a quick example. Mark Benioff in Salesforce really pioneered SaaS, software as a service, right? Now, none of this software as a service could be possible without cloud computing, without AWS, without Azure, without Google Cloud. So I think if you can be as close as possible to the infrastructure, I think you're going to do well. That's another reason why I've liked Palo Alto Networks, right? Because Palo Alto Networks, in my view, they're the undisputed leader in cybersecurity, but they're also very big in hardware infrastructure, right? I'm sure some of you, who are in networking, maybe you're a network engineer, something like that, you've probably dealt with or worked with routers, right? Palo Alto routers, things like that. If you've built out like an SD-WAN infrastructure, something like that. And I think Palo Alto Networks is a full inclusive solution, right? So that is like your go-to one-stop shop for cybersecurity infrastructure. As opposed to this, as opposed to companies that get very, very niche specific in what they service, right? So if you want to talk about cybersecurity, we just go down the list, right? So Palo Alto Networks, more broad-based, more robust platform, right, as it relates to zero trust architecture and the like. If you go to a company like Okta, it's sort of very specific in what they specialize in, right? Identity and access management. They're going to have to compete with Microsoft and Palo Alto Networks that already has an IAM solution built into their infrastructure. So I think the more broad-based you can go, I think the safer the bet will be. I don't know, any thoughts there? Agree or disagree? Yeah, Ryan Beck says, or a company that isn't a specialist, maybe later to the game, and not a specialty focused, like Microsoft. Yeah, per Palo Alto CEO. I also think that, and this is why I always say, the way I was taught anyway, is to sort of build a thesis, an investment thesis from top down, bottom up, right? I think a lot of investors could try to do it reversed, like reverse those roles, and just try to look for, the first question that everybody asks is, what stock is going to go up? What is the stock? But you're overlooking the framework that you need to follow to get to that stock view. Your stock view should be the very, very last thing that you look at, because essentially you want to identify a massive TAM, or a total addressable market, and which sectors in the economy are going to be growing the most. Is it hospitality? Is it, you could just go through every single sector. And I'm not sure if anybody has seen the most recent interview with the CEO of Palantir, as he was talking about artificial intelligence. It was a wild interview. And I think it was on either a Reuters interview or Bloomberg, I forget. But if you just Google Palantir CEO interview, it was the most recent one he did. And the interviewer said, what do you think the total addressable market is of AI? And he answered the question with, there's an infinite number. It's infinite. The TAM, or the total addressable market, is infinite, right? Which is a pretty shocking answer. So look, I think it's important just to ask yourself the big questions. What is going to be the technology, or what is going to be the thing that influences and impacts people's lives the most 10 years out, 20 years out? And to me, those trends are as follows. It'll probably be cloud computing, it'll be artificial intelligence, and it'll be telecommunications with 5G. So maybe like a subcategory we could look at is, who are all of these big tower companies that are going to be providing the infrastructure space to build out a robust 5G network, right? So maybe like a company like American Tower or something like that. So, and maybe even a pure play telco like a T-Mobile. I think if you want to talk about the three major wireless providers or carriers in the US, Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, I would say T-Mobile probably has the best shot. If I had to bet on one of those three companies, I think T-Mobile is best positioned to actually build out a real and robust 5G network. Now, one of the reasons why was due to their recent acquisition of Sprint. Now, Sprint back in the day, if you want to go even further, it was the old Nextel. Is anybody here old enough to remember Nextel? Those two-way chirp radios? Well, when T-Mobile bought Sprint, right, they call it a merger, but Sprint was in some really hot water, and T-Mobile was by far the more well-capitalized company. It was pretty much just like an acquisition. But what was so important about that acquisition is the amount of spectrum, right? So the amount of spectrum that Sprint owned, that was this very precious mid-band spectrum, was insane. And it just so happens that the best spectrum band to build out a 5G network is that very sought-after mid-band spectrum, which now T-Mobile has a ton of it, right? If AT&T and Verizon want to catch up to acquiring a lot of that mid-band spectrum, they're going to have to buy it at auction. They actually have these spectrum auctions. The US government auctions off spectrum, and that is very, very capital intensive. You're talking about billions and billions of dollars, and T-Mobile now has it due to the acquisition. So, hey, Steve B says, does anybody know of Starlink? Will it be able to do 5G? You know, I punched in my address on the website, and it says I didn't qualify for it. Now, this is in Miami, so I thought it was a little weird. Does anybody here in the chat have Starlink, or has tried to get it, or are they in the process of getting it? Because for some reason it told me I wasn't eligible, but I think that's wrong. I don't know. Wow, look at this shot of the Empire here. Hey, Carl Roth is here. It says, hey Tom, broad-based solutions with innovative edge, something new that can be applied from all the tech sectors. This is Carl Roth. Thank you for that, Carl. Hopefully it's a little bit cooler where you are in Canada. Hey, Ryan Beck says, T-Mobile isn't really building anything though, just making everything they acquired talk and work together. Well, the last that I heard, and I was actually doing some contract work with T-Mobile, is the problem there is this. I'm sure you're familiar, if you've ever worked in the telecom business, you've probably heard of a TEM, which are the telecom expense managers. The problem is T-Mobile doesn't have any sort of a robust platform as it relates to IoT or enterprise solutions. If you go to Verizon, if you go to AT&T, and you're a big enterprise customer, right? Let's say if you're a global 2000, Fortune 500, big 50 company, you're going to be able to, from day one, to have a complete enterprise solution, enterprise-grade platform to order devices, manage devices, and essentially manage your services, right? Manage service providers. T-Mobile doesn't have any of that, and they outsource a lot of it to other TEMs, if you will, and to other MSPs. And that makes the system very, very cumbersome, and it makes them hard to, I should say, gain market share in the enterprise space. So if they can invest real money and real resources into building sort of a portal system that Verizon and AT&T have, I think it would just be lights out. Also, they have to build out a robust IoT platform, sort of like what Sprint had. I think with Sprint it was called Curiosity, if anybody was familiar with that. I think John Saw was the individual who oversaw that IoT platform. All right, so we are coming up against the Bank of China here. This is West 39th Street. Ryan Beck says, I think you'll see the carriers that had large capital expenditures on fiber and 5G build out. It will pay dividends in the future as CapEx comes down and OpEx comes down as well. Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And you're spot on. It's super expensive to build out these networks. Oh, let's get away from this guy. But yeah, Ryan Beck, you're 100% correct. And I think it's reflecting in the stock price of AT&T and Verizon specifically, right? I mean, AT&T is trading at 20-year lows because it's very expensive to build out a network. And that's also why regulators almost didn't approve the T-Mobile Sprint merger, if you remember that correctly, because it sort of like creates a big monopoly of the big three. And I know that there's a couple other smaller telecommunications companies, but in no way can compete with the big three now. What is another one? US Cellular, if anybody's heard of that, but I think US Cellular mainly deals in more rural environments. So you do have some competitors, but I think if you have a new person, let's say like one of these big cable companies, I think Charter is trying to get involved in the market, it's almost impossible because it costs so much money to build out a network. Yeah, I know. Ryan Beck's Sprint got a steal. I think Verizon spent $63 billion on Spectrum last year alone. It's crazy how expensive it is. It's really, really wild. Evan Weeks, what's up? Says it'll be interesting to see whether Starlink manages to accomplish the goal of replacing cellular/broadband terrestrial comms, and whether they'll manage it without an antitrust investigation. I'm going to try to look back in the comments. It's a good point, by the way. But I'm going to look back in the comments to see if anybody has Starlink. I think I missed a lot of comments there. Hey, Victor, welcome. Says good evening. Good to see you, Victor. NBA Elias, welcome. Somebody's talking about MVNOs. Yes. NBA Elias says MVNO are great deals. Than going with regular carrier. Yeah, so I actually have some experience in that. You're right, but it's also so here's sort of how MVNOs work. It's all licensing agreements with the main carriers. I think the most notable MVNO, which was actually a massive deal, was Mint Mobile. I'm sure you're all familiar with that deal, right? With Ryan Gosling's company. Now, his pitch on all the YouTube advertisements is, his pitch was essentially this. We don't spend the multi-millions of dollars in advertising and marketing, so we can invest that into our network and give you guys cheap cell service. That's not how it works at all. Essentially how it works is the way they're able to offer you cheap cell service is because they have licensing agreements with all of the carriers. So they'll have licensing agreements with AT&T, they'll have licensing agreements with Verizon and T-Mobile to use their cell towers as they see fit. So essentially you're roaming on AT&T, you're roaming on Verizon, you're roaming on T-Mobile, but you just get deprioritized on the network, if that makes sense. So if you're using Mint Mobile for basic stuff, which is actually now acquired by T-Mobile, if you're using it for basic cellular needs, it's a steal. It's a really, really good deal. But you couldn't do something like this, like live stream on it. It would just be buffering all the time because it would deprioritize you on the network. So MVNOs are great. I think Walmart has an MVNO brand. I just forget what the name is. And there's tons of other smaller IoT companies that are MVNO brands as well. So I think you're right. How much was that deal, by the way, everybody? Yeah, Total Wireless, I think, is one. Does anybody know the exact amount that T-Mobile paid for Mint Mobile? I forget. All right, yeah, Evan Weeks. So this is Bryant Park. Finally, we were able to get here before it closed. This is the Bank of America sort of stage here. So they'll have movies, they'll have concerts, a lot of outdoor activities all summer long right here on the Bryant Park lawn. It's absolutely gorgeous here. In the distance, you could actually see the one and only Stephen Schwartzman building. This is the New York Public Library. Wow, Ryan Beck's is $4 billion. Whoa. I mean, that was a sweetheart deal for Ryan Gosling. I mean, I think he made almost $1 billion alone on that. This is One Vanderbilt. We'll do a quick lap around Bryant Park just to show you guys. We actually haven't been here in a long time. I think it's been about a month. But yeah, I think those businesses that we've been talking about, right? Telecom, 5G, IoT, cloud computing, AI, that's really going to be the growth engine of the new economy. Ryan Reynolds, you're right. Yeah, I'm not a big celebrity type guy. I don't watch any movies. But you're right, Ryan Reynolds, not Ryan Gosling. That's hilarious. Yeah, Beth Collier, Ryan Reynolds. Yeah, I don't, like, I am the worst person to ask for anything involving celebrities. I am so oblivious and so ignorant to it all. So thank you for correcting that. You're correct. Ryan Reynolds. Who is Ryan Gosling? What movies, do they look similar? I don't know. Anyway, Miles says, what is your opinion on the future of transportation? Well, I think the United States over time is going to build out an appropriate infrastructure for EVs. I just don't think we're there yet. And I think there's been a lot of pandering by politicians to say, look, we need to, snap our fingers and, go 100% EVs, which is just not feasible. It's feasible in other countries, right? But you have to understand geography. And the United States is a massive country. People just don't understand the sheer landmass of the United States. Try to take your Tesla on a cross-country road trip. It's just not even possible. You'd be stopping, every 300 miles to charge the thing. So, it's a work in progress. I think a country like Korea, small country, they're probably going to get to that race faster in terms of, not even full EV, but full autonomy too. So I think it's just going to take the US a little bit longer to get there. But the future of transportation, I think, in the US will be mostly EVs, but it's going to take a lot longer than people think to get that done. And I think we should be responsible about it, because you could cripple the economy if you put too many restrictions on fossil fuels and the like. You could cripple the economy pretty bad in my view. But I don't know. What do you think is the future of transportation? Yeah, high-speed rail. I would be in favor for that, 100%. I think the United States should have a massive high-speed rail system. Arsenal Fan 13 says Singapore and Japan could also be dark horses too in the EV race. Elijah B says, well, interesting. This is Brightline is the future. Maybe. Roberts is fully autonomous vehicles. I believe in my lifetime we will probably see complete full autonomy. Now, I was a little bit concerned. Did anybody see the video? It was actually a live stream of, I forget what exact model of a Tesla it was. It may have been a Tesla Model X. But they did a live stream of the test drive of their full autonomous driving capabilities on the Tesla. And let's just say it was not very impressive. There was multiple, I'm not going to say accidents, but almost multiple accidents where the driver had to interfere. So I think it's a work in progress. And I'm a huge Elon Musk fan. I don't think you could get a bigger supporter than Elon Musk than me. However, I think he's so optimistic that his verbiage can come off as almost like, I don't want to say lying, but really embellishing the capabilities of a Tesla EV right now. Does anybody agree or disagree with that? Does anybody have a Tesla? Because from some of the driving experience that I've seen that were filmed has not been very good. Yeah, Brad's brain says, why are we so determined to have self-driving cars? I think, you think it's only for control? Interesting. Eventually they'll control your speed, maybe where you're able to drive. Yeah, I definitely understand that perspective. And I don't want to sound like I'm dismissive of that perspective. But I think it's just a natural progression. The way I try to frame it to myself, and maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. The way I try to frame it to myself is just a natural progression of technology. It's the same type of argument with digital transactions and digital currencies. People are saying, well, why would we push for a CBDC, right, a central bank digital currency, because they could just come in and shut my currency off and, ban me and cancel me. Which, yeah, I guess I agree with that, but at the end of the day, they could probably already do that now. Right? If they really wanted to, you could just be erased from the banking system overnight. I think they have those capabilities now. So I try not to be super pessimistic on the future. And I don't think that necessarily people have this facetious perspective of why they're doing things. I think the United States is a very unique country that a lot of those things that you discussed would never happen here, because I don't think people would put up with it. But from the other perspective, think about how many accidents per year are caused by individuals falling asleep behind the wheel, driving drunk, driving under the influence of some sort of narcotic. A lot. Thousands of people, if not probably even tens of thousands of people, die every year due to human error, if you will. So once you can build out a real robust self-driving infrastructure, think about how many lives that's going to save. It's essentially going to eliminate the drunk driving problem overnight, like that. Snapping your finger, it's done. So I think there's good and bad with everything. But I mean, Brad's brain, I definitely understand your point there. Could the government go in and shut your car off? If you have too many speeding tickets, they could just go in the software and say, hey, until you pay your tickets or whatever. I don't know. I'm just making something up. I guess maybe if it's autonomous driving, you wouldn't have any speeding tickets because it would just go the speed limit. I don't know. Who knows? Now this is the expensive bathrooms here at Bryant Park. I'm surprised they're still open, actually. CPQ Trainer says, hey Tom, did you hear that US passport holders who can currently travel to most European countries will now need to get... No, I didn't hear about that. Let me actually pull off to the side and read that comment, because that's wild. Wow, I'm in the process of getting my passport, so that's good to know. Thank you for saying that. Brad's brain says, I don't think those factors override the other reasons they want us using these self-driving vehicles. Maybe. I mean, maybe you're right. I don't know. But what? Okay, so I mean, it's a big country, and I think people get confused with the term government. Government is just a collective of people, right? And I think if government, especially in the United States with our republic system that we have, if it overextends its reach, you have people pushing back and revolting, sort of like what you saw with all the lockdowns and things. So I don't know, anything new people have resistance to. People don't like change. It was the same thing with, horse and buggy back in the day. There was a lot of resistance when the Model T came out. There was a lot of resistance to the internet, right? People like, oh, why do you want me on the internet? Why do you want me sending emails? I even still worked with employees, or coworkers, I should say, that are very, very hesitant to using a CRM, right? So for those of you who don't know, CRM is customer relationship management software. There's still, some older employees, usually, that are hesitant to say, hey, why do I need to put all of my business contacts into a CRM? You guys just want to steal all my customers and all my clients. Which there is some truth to that, actually, by the way. But in general, the reason why companies have CRMs is to streamline processes, right? To develop follow-up systems and the like. So I think anytime you have a new piece of software, new technology, it's going to be met with resistance. I don't know, maybe there is something facetious going on. I have no idea. MBLI says my parents still use a landline and refuse to use cell phones? What? I'm surprised they even still service those. That's crazy. D Traveler, what's up? J49, good to see you. Carl Roth says I have a Tesla S model. Love that. Battery pack upgraded twice at no extra cost. Wow, now 420 miles to charge. It was 300 back in 2018. Going to 620 soon. Love their support. Okay, well that would work. That's fantastic. Yeah, again, think about it from the Canadian perspective. Canada is a massive landmass. I think 90% of Canadians live within like 10% of the country's landmass. And I think look, all of this stuff is going to progress, right? Battery capacity, battery technology is going to get better. The battery capacity is going to go from 420 miles to 1,000. In 10 years, you'll probably be able to go 3,000 miles on a charge. So it's a work in progress. But I mean, it's only optimistic from here. It's only up from here. Hey, Daniel G from Buenos Aires, good to see you. Brad's brain says we're less free than we were when I was born. And I don't think many young people realize that. Government overextended its reach after 9/11 and never returned freedoms. We didn't have federal police in cities. Yeah, and I get that. I definitely get that. You know, 9/11 was definitely a pivotal point for that. I guess I wouldn't know anything to compare it to, but I mean, I feel pretty free. However, I do get very annoyed at the tedious bureaucratic nonsense that goes on. Look, I think digital can translate to more control, right? I truly believe that within my lifetime, there's going to be no IDs. It's just going to be your phone. It's going to be all of your biometrics are just going to be uploaded in a massive government database. And you won't have to show the TSA your passport. You won't have to show the TSA your driver's license. It's just going to scan your eyes and it's going to look you up in a database in 3 seconds. And when we look back on this and when we tell our kids, hey, I had to stand in line at the airport and hand my ID to the TSA agent, they're going to look at us like we're crazy. But that's where the world's going. You know, if you've walked into a Whole Foods lately, has anybody walked into a Whole Foods and you saw you have the option to scan your palm to pay for your food? Has anybody seen that? I actually think some of you guys on the stream told me about that first. Yeah, Zozo Bob says they have palm prints at Whole Foods. There we go. I mean, it's only gonna get more of that stuff, not less, in my view. It's inevitable. Now we're looking at the Chrysler building. We're standing directly outside Grand Central Terminal on this beautiful yet hot night in New York. Life, Liberty, and Guns, says Tom. I hope to be gone from this man's earth by then. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm not saying I'm necessarily for this. I'm just saying as a trend follower, this is inevitable. If they have palm readers at the Whole Foods in 2023, what type of readers do you think they're going to have at the Whole Foods in 2043, right? So I think it's just inevitable. Mike MTL says facial recognition monitoring is very scary in China. That is very scary. Now, you guys want to know an interesting topic? I think you guys would enjoy this. But first, I got to take a little bit of an air conditioning break inside the Grand Central Terminal, but this is going to play in well with the live stream, and I'll tell you why. So we've been talking about AI a lot tonight, facial recognition, biometrics. I think that's going to be a boon for the stock market. But I think for personal freedoms, as Brad Brain has said in the chat, personal freedoms will probably diminish. I agree with that. I agree with that take. Now, as you walk down the, I was about to say the stairs. This isn't stairs. The ramp. Yeah, the ramp. As you walk down the ramp here, and if we make a right, I'll actually try to show this to you guys. I believe there's 2 specific subway stations that is in a pilot program for what the MTA is trying to do as it relates to capturing data on fare evaders. So if you are at Grand Central Terminal, or if you're at Times Square, I would strongly advise not to jump the turnstiles. Now, if you ask yourself, if you're asking me why, well, I'll tell you why. The MTA is partnered up with this specific company. I don't know what the exact company is, but there'll be cameras at every single turnstile at Grand Central Station and Times Square for this pilot program. And if you jump the turnstile, your face will be uploaded into an MTA database. Now, they say that they're doing this not because they're going to send the police after you and send you a bunch of tickets, but to track the exact dollar amount that the MTA will lose when people are evading the fares. Now, I know what you're thinking. That seems like a bogus reason, and I agree. It's obviously because they want to put your name in a database, and then as time goes on and as they get more comfortable with this, they're going to roll this out, and pretty much what's going to happen is your face is going to go into a database, right? And this is all alleged, right? This is my speculation. But if you jump the turnstile, your face is going to go into the database, and they're just going to send you bills, right? They're just going to send you bills, and it may get out of hand to where they may dock your pay. I mean, I think that's what's going to be coming. I told you, one of my good friends sent me a pitch deck for this company that contracts with a lot of the big box retailers here in the United States. And it's a virtual software platform for loss prevention. Okay, so essentially what this tool does is it's installed in the security cameras in Target, in Walmart, in Best Buy. And if you steal something, nobody's going to even try to stop you, right? You could walk out with 2 or 3 TVs, whatever you want. The facial recognition software is going to keep tabs of your face uploaded to a database, and once you reach a certain limit, right, in some states it's different thresholds of how much you could steal before it's, you know, a misdemeanor, felony, and the like. Once your essential budget adds up over that certain amount, they're just going to send police to your door and arrest you, and they're just going to bill you for it. So on one hand, people would say, oh, this is great, this is going to prevent so much theft, this is going to prevent fare evasion. But on the other hand, people are going to be like, well, this is a big police state, this is going to turn into the CCP, that if you do anything, you know, they're just going to put you on blast in front of your peers, sort of like a social credit score. Any thoughts on that? Do we have any agreements or disagreements with that? Do we think this is a good idea to be rolling out? I'll try to take you guys to the specific terminal where this sort of AI is in place, but it's going to be Grand Central Station as well as Times Square. Oh, really? Miles says here in the Netherlands, they don't care if you skip the turnstiles because your little ticket doesn't fund the transit. Interesting. Yeah, NBA Elias is like Big Brother's watching you as you're pushing the shopping cart. I don't know. I think that I'm a little on the fence about it because I've been taking the train, right? I've been taking the subway more often now, and I kind of do get a little bit upset when you see all of these people jump in the turnstile while you're paying for it. So if it can be used as a prevention tactic, then I'm all for it. Let's see if we could see which one it is. We'll try to see the facial recognition here. Double Eagle says, I don't think people brazen enough to walk in and steal from a big box. Yeah, maybe. I don't think these are them. It looks very specific. It looks like a door. Maybe it's not here, maybe it's on the other one. Anyway, you could Google it. I thought it was down here, but maybe it's not installed yet, who knows? All right, we'll go back up. We'll go back up and out. The live stream so far tonight. Feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new here. We usually go live at about 8:30. I know, Hawaii. It was kind of cool to take you guys down into the subway, though. You could sort of see what the new turnstiles look like. That's another thing. If you haven't visited New York yet, I think within the next 8 months is going to be the last opportunity to get your hands on a Metro card. They're doing away with the Metro cards, and it's all going to be tap to pay, which I actually prefer. And that has been met with some resistance in the city. I've been actually seeing people walking around trying to petition it, saying it discriminates against people that are underbanked. I don't see it that way. I see it for much more efficiency. During rush hour, if you're trying to get on the train and you have tourists fumbling around with the Metro card because they don't know how to swipe it, I mean, it causes a massive line. But now everybody just taps their phone and there's never any holdup. And I think that's what the MTA needs to do at the air train. If anybody's ever taken a flight to JFK and took the air train to Jamaica Station, you know that it's going to take you at least 10 minutes just to get out of the turnstile because it is so cumbersome for people just to pay the fare. So I think they need to install the tap to pay over there as well. And I think that's going to increase a lot of those operational efficiencies. All right, we'll give you one more shot of the roof at Grand Central and then we'll head out. Hey, Adam Wagner, what's up? Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Ming says it's popular that paying by iPhone now. Yeah. I think it's good. I think it's good. And the thing is, if you swipe 12 times, so this is good for people to know who are traveling to New York. If you pay with your phone 12 times within the week, the rest of the times you swipe are completely free. So you could travel around the city as much as you want, and you only pay for 12 rides for the week. So if you take 20 rides, anything over 12 is free. So it's pretty good. Yes, Manny Explorers is definitely JFK needs the Tao Pay, 100%, dude. It's so bad Like I'm running from the air train to the little terminal because the people don't know how to swipe it. But I don't know, is the air train operated by the MTA? It may not be. I forget, I'll have to look into it. But Manny Explorers, good to see you. We are now standing outside Grand Central Station. I know, SME Media, isn't that a deal? That's an amazing deal. So we talked about a lot, right? We talked about facial recognition, AI, EVs, right? Electric vehicles, full self-driving, autonomous driving. Now, I know we have a lot of people on both sides of the aisle about this, and I think that's great. I think that the sort of the debate on whether it's good or not is very healthy. But if we want to talk about these technologies from a standpoint of corporate profits, right? In my view, it is my view that corporate profits are going to absolutely explode, especially as you talk about gross margins. And for obvious reasons, right? Think about it. If we live in a world at some point where it is full autonomous driving, Uber is going to be one of the most profitable businesses in the world, right? Because they don't have to pay any of their drivers, because all of these rides, if you will be fully autonomous. So you won't need the drivers. Right? This is thinking, I mean, years and years down the line. Think about it from a standpoint of Tesla, right? The margin expansion there. You know, one of the biggest value propositions that has been on Tesla is they have 30% plus margins on their vehicles. Now that's come down substantially due to inflation, but now that inflation's coming down a little bit, especially commodities prices, I think those gross margins are going to expand again over time. And you could go line item by line item to every single industry, from hospitality, from hoteling, airfare. It's going to not only drive gross margins to the sky, but it's probably going to drive costs significantly lower, which I think is a good thing. DA says no humidity tonight. No, it's humid, man. It is very, very hot and very, very humid tonight. Crazy humid. We are now on 5th Avenue, looking uptown. You know, we might as well walk up 5th. We haven't walked up 5th Avenue in a long, long time. NBA Elias, is it worse than Miami humidity? Yes. Surprisingly, it is way worse than Miami's humidity. I'm not even lying about that, at least for me. Hey, Keith, says Tom, did you know autonomous driving is a $15,000 option on Tesla? I did not know that. I did not. I don't own a car. However, if I do ever own a car, I think it'll probably be a Tesla. I think. I mean, for $15,000, after watching that Ross Gerber live stream of the test drive of the autonomous driving, I don't think it's worth $15,000 as of right now, in my view. All right, we're standing outside of 522 5th Avenue. Seems as actually we have a lot of street traffic headed downtown. Yeah, Brad's Brain says I'm going to play with AI, Chat GPT to text, translate, etc. and create an entire YouTube video on a subject that I know nothing about, just to try it. What subject should it be? You know, I've actually been using ChatGPT a lot, and it is very good, but I've caught it a couple times, Brad, just saying utter nonsense. So that is just a little bit of a forewarning there. I've used it to help me, I think I told you I'm trying to make a trading bot, and some of the stuff it spits out is nonsense. But you just have to double check it. But besides from that, it is very good. I would play around with it. A lot of people are very reluctant to play around with it. I was. But it's very good. It is very, very good. Anybody here use ChatGPT at work? Now, there was that Wall Street Journal article we were talking about of that lawyer who used ChatGPT to try to fight a case for one of his clients. The problem is ChatGPT made up a fake court case to reference. And the judge was like, what are you talking about? This is like a fake case. This doesn't even make any sense. Turns out the lawyer was using ChatGPT in his defense case for his client. So that's a little embarrassing. Hey, Joseph Hardaway, what's up? Adam Wagner says, if electric is the way, then I would say invest in the machines used to get those minerals. Yeah, such as Caterpillar. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a very good thesis, for sure. That is definitely a very good thesis there. You know, Caterpillar's ticker symbol CAT. I actually think that stock is getting crushed, but it's been in like a 4-year bull market, Caterpillar. Now, oftentimes we can use those particular stocks to gauge the health of the manufacturing sector and things like that in the United States and in China specifically. Which we're actually going to talk about next week, because that's already August next week, which is crazy. And the first business day of every single month, I've been seeing so many of these Vespas around the city now. Seems like everybody's driving around in a Vespa now. It's kind of like Miami. Anyway, the first business day of every single month, the Institute for Supply Management will release the PMI numbers, the manufacturing PMI numbers. And there is pretty high correlation between, I should say, price action in those specific names, like CAT, a lot of the other big industrial manufacturing stocks, and the PMIs, both in the United States and China. And China has not, well, I should say China has really disappointed. Myself included. I thought that once the CCP, right, the Communist Chinese Party, stopped with the zero COVID policy, I thought you were going to have an explosion in economic activity in mainland China. We actually haven't seen that at all. Now, this is so interesting we're talking about this, because next week we're going to hear from our good friend Tim Cook. This is the Diamond District, by the way. So this is one of the most famous sort of streets of Manhattan. A lot of famous jewelry shops. A lot of notable people come here to buy jewelry, watches, and the like. But next week, we're going to hear from Tim Cook, who's the CEO of Apple. And he's been giving very concise updates on China specifically. Now, if you remember last quarter, right, their last earnings report, one of the things that Tim Cook said is he's been very disappointed with sales activity in China. He had the same thesis as everybody else. You know, once the zero COVID policy stopped in China, he was betting on a massive explosion in economic activity. Didn't happen. Secondly, I think one of the things that we should really be looking for in Apple's earnings report is their updates on India. Last quarter, there was the first ever Apple store in India to open. And as major companies look to diversify away from China, they're bringing a lot of manufacturing capacity to India. I think all iPad manufacturing is now ripped away from China and is going to be given to India. So it'll be interesting to see that next week. Hey, Adam Wagner says, yes, I do remember that last quarter. This world isn't exploding. It's in smaller segments. Yeah, for sure. The LT Prod says China is afraid to have oligarchs like Russia. So they would rather see a depressed economy. Well, I mean, China is still an economic powerhouse, don't get me wrong. I just think China is a very, very bifurcated economy. You know, you could have extreme impoverished parts of China where there's mass famine, and then you could have extreme wealth. If you want to argue, a lot of people want to argue that the United States, there's extreme wealth inequality, which there is, which you're 100% right. If anything, the wealth inequality in the United States has gotten worse over the last 3 or 4 years, not better. Way worse, I would argue. Anyway, it's beyond that in China in terms of wealth inequality. It's a big problem here in the United States too. I think a lot of the stimulus to help us get out of the COVID doldrums, if you will, sort of turbocharge the extreme wealthy elites in the United States. From my viewpoint, anyway. We have made it to Rockefeller Center, my friends. We are standing directly outside of 30 Rock. This is one of the most famous buildings in New York City, and if you look all the way at the top, that is the top of Rockefeller Center, which is my favorite observation deck in the entire city. Miles says interest rates have also caused inequality, which were close to zero. I think that's a fantastic point. Miles, that is an unbelievable point. And that is one of the main reasons why I am not in favor of MMT, or modern monetary theory, is because, you know, I guess you can, and you could argue both ways. I'll try not to be super biased, because I do have a viewpoint, but I don't like to jam my viewpoint down everybody's throat. But if you think about what has gone on since really the turn of the financial crisis, right? So in 2008, 2009, the United States, and we're just going to do a quick lap around 30 Rock. I want to check out the roller skating rink. But first, look at how gorgeous these American flags are that are hung on Saks Fifth Avenue. Really, really beautiful. But to Miles's point, what happened after the great financial crisis of 2008 and 2009 is monetary policy. We went into this massive spiraling experiment where we've had artificial suppression of interest rates for over a decade now. And that has come in the form of multiple ways. Now, obviously, the Federal Reserve has held interest rates near zero, but they've also massively expanded their balance sheet, which is essentially massive bond buying of mortgage-backed securities and U.S. Treasuries. So that suppresses bond yields. And if you think about access to capital, I think it's so important that we have that conversation of access to capital. Generally speaking, it is wealthy individuals, corporations, and people with very healthy credit scores and corporate credit scores that are able to get access to capital. So how does this all tie into one another? Well, over the last 14 years, you've had artificially suppressed interest rates, literally free money, because we've had inflation in the United States that has actually been very low over the past 14 years, right? We've had a little bit of a spike due to COVID, but inflation was running right at the Fed's 2% target. But you were able to borrow money for almost the same amount, if not even lower. So factoring in inflation, you were able to just borrow money for free. So what did people do? They borrowed money near zero, and they accumulated assets. They bought homes, they bought real estate, they bought commercial real estate, they bought stock. Even corporations borrowed money to purchase their own stock through stock repurchase programs. So this has allowed the wealthy, I would say the top 10% in the United States, to become so wealthy beyond their wildest dreams, and it has caused a runaway in asset price inflation. You know, just go, if you have a Bloomberg terminal, if you have MarketSmith, or even if you have, TradingView, a software like that, just type in the ticker symbol for the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, or the Dow, and zoom out to a monthly chart. It's literally from the bottom left to the top right. And the problem is 90% of all the equities in this country are owned by the top 5% of people. So you may be asking yourself, or you may be saying, well, equity market returns have been fantastic. Real estate returns have been fantastic. Well, shouldn't that benefit everybody? Well, I guess in theory it should, but that's not the way things have been divided up. Because you have massive concentration of wealth at the top, that when these asset prices are being inflated, the beneficiaries are in the eyes of the beholder, and the beholders are the top 10%. Everybody else who is, of working class, it's harder and harder and harder to acquire the assets, because now if you go on Zillow, right, pretty much anywhere near a major city, and you look for a starter home, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, it's going to be at minimum maybe $450,000, right? So it's a good point. It's a very good point. And I think that's, I don't want to blame it on one entity, but the Federal Reserve and monetary policy is a big reason why that has been the case. Now this is the Today Show, and the building directly above the Today Show is completely vacant. So this was all office space here. It was bought out, and there's actually going to be a hotel that's been put in place right here, which I think is really good, because vacancy rates in the city for commercial office space is at the highest it's ever been pretty much in the city's history. So they're going to need to come up with creative ways to fill this space, and I think a hotel would work really well right here at Rockefeller Center. Yeah, Abyss's homes are too expensive. I agreed. Adam says, no, we can't blame on an entity, but we can see it in policies. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Michael Joseph says, Tom, did you specifically invest in Florida home because it's easier to rent with less hassle than New York City? I would be lying if I said that's not one of the reasons. It is one of the reasons, but there's many, many reasons why I've chosen to purchase down there. Mainly because I like the climate. And as I think about where I want to be the majority of the year as I get older, I want to be in Miami Beach. I want to be in a place where it's 80 degrees almost every single day of the year and high humidity. If I really liked it cold, if I really liked skiing and snowboarding, I would have probably chosen a different place. So I would say less on that and more on just lifestyle. But to say that wasn't a factor would be a lie. It is a factor, especially for a small business landlord like myself. Some cities in specific states increase your risk. That's just undeniable. the tenant-landlord laws are skewed in specific ways based upon where you live. I'll give you a quick example. My friend, my good friend, who I was an account executive with a few years ago, lives in Lindenhurst. He has a split-level home, like the classic, two-family homes on Long Island. He still has a squatter in his house that he can't evict since COVID. Now, thank God, he's a well-to-do guy, right? This isn't like going to cripple him financially, but for some people it would, right? For a landlord that's just getting started, that relies on that rent to pay the mortgage, that's a problem. So, there's good and the bad with everything, and it increases your risk, especially if you don't have a lot of capital in New York if you're a landlord here. That is true. Yeah, Zozo Bob says Florida is a pro-owner state. That's correct. Now, is that to say I would never buy in New York? No. I actually may buy something in New York this year, actually. If my old apartment comes back on the market, I may buy that. All right, this is Radio City Music Hall. This is West 50th Street and Avenue of the Americas. This is one of my favorite spots in the entire city. Hey, NBA Elias, I love money more than the things it can buy. But what I love more than money is other people's money. Good quote. Hey, ETS is Tom. I did some research based on Tom Lee's comment I mentioned yesterday. Historically, 30-year mortgages on average is 1.75% over the 10-year Treasury. Mortgage rates should be 5.68%. Home builders to benefit. Let me take a screenshot of that because I really like that data. That's really good data. Thank you for saying that. Now here's the question. I have actually a question for you to your comment there. Let's assume Tom Lee is correct. Now I don't think, and it's good to disagree. I mean, Tom Lee has been right about a lot. He called this rally in the equity market, nailed it to a wall. But assuming a 30-year fixed comes down, right? Let's say a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, the average right now is 7.25. Okay, that's the average interest rate on a 30-year fixed right now. If it does come down to that 5.5% range that you talked about in your comment, do you think that's going to start another buying frenzy, similar to what we saw during COVID with all of these ridiculous bidding wars? Or do you think it could potentially create the opposite, where sellers would feel more comfortable listing their homes on the market, and that could potentially flood the market with supply, get things moving again, and maybe transaction volume would be up, but prices would actually go down? That could be a theory too. I don't know. I think a lot of you guys and girls are homeowners here. Would love to know your thoughts and opinions on that as we pass Neuberger Berman and UBS. UBS is now taken over Credit Suisse, the failing bank. Can you guys believe all that Silicon Valley bank collapse happened this year? It seemed like an eternity ago, but it was this year. Hey, John Kelly's, does it better come down? Nobody wants to sell at the current ranges you just mentioned. Yeah, I mean, I've talked to a lot of owners of really nice apartments in the city. Okay, I'll give you a little bit of insight. So there's this one gentleman who I've been talking to, and he's had this, the way he purchased his apartment, his very nice apartment, was with very creative financing. So it wasn't an ARM, it wasn't an adjustable rate mortgage product, but it was something similar. And over the last 7 years that he's on the property, he's been paying a ridiculously low rate, something like 1.7%, almost like 2%. This is one of my favorite lobbies in the entire city, Nürburgring Berman. It's gorgeous. But now that rates have gone up 500 basis points, he's paying over 8% on this particular product. So he wants to dump, well, not dump, sell the house, the apartment, and whatnot. So how many, if we could pull data, how many people are in similar situations? I wouldn't argue that many, but I think it could potentially make a difference. I'm just trying to find the catalyst, and maybe I'm trying to look too hard at what could get supply moving on the market again. Is it people that are in trouble? Maybe it's mortgage rates coming down. I don't know. But there is a shortage of quality inventory, at least here in New York. Hey, Marcelo Gill, what's up? We're actually right outside UBS, by the way, my friend. Jacqueline Smith is here. Hey, Jacqueline, good to see you. Vivian says refinance. You know, I don't particularly like that advice. How many of you have heard a realtor say, you know, don't worry about the interest rate because you could always just refinance later? What is the term they use sometimes? They say marry the house, date the rate. I think that's horrible advice. I'm going to go against the grain on that. Look, no, it's okay if we disagree. I'm not taking a shot at some people, but I think that is like the worst thing, like the worst piece of advice ever. I don't know. That's my opinion. Now, this building, guys, is super interesting. This is 53 West 53rd Street. Now, it's technically not on Billionaires Row. It's a few blocks away from it, but this is technically one of those Billionaires Row type buildings, which I will be doing a preview of next week. So I'm really excited about that. So we've done 130 William, we've done Olympia Dumbo, which was a gorgeous property in Dumbo, Brooklyn. And then next week, we will be right here at 53 West 53rd Street in Midtown Manhattan, checking out some of the units there. And as always, I'll let you guys know my honest take on those buildings. Hey, Zozo Bob says, Tom, most of my clients don't care about the interest rate. They just wanted the house. That's another good point. So to Zozo Bob's point, I'll actually rephrase what I said about the horrible advice. For first-time home buyers on limited budgets, it's horrible advice. But if you're dealing in the luxury market, like real estate sales is very, very diverse. You could be dealing with ultra-high net worth individuals that don't care about price, right? Price is inelastic to them, and they just care about having every single thing they want. They want a chef's kitchen. They want a separate entrance for the nanny. They want to have, you know, their driver to have a specific spot at all times in the building. Their chauffeurs, like that is more of a service, providing a holistic service for clients, right? I think if you're dealing with a first-time home buyer, right, that makes $70,000 a year and that's going to buy a $300,000 house, I think you got to be a little bit more calculated with how you handle that client. So I would say the horrible advice of the marry the house, date the rate is horrible advice for a newbie, beginner, first-time home buyer that has the majority of their net worth on the line. But for something like, if you're in real estate sales in New York, specifically dealing with high net worth, ultra high net worth, and even institutional buyers, then, a lot of times they come in all cash, right? There's not even financing in these deals. A lot of time those deals are done all cash. So that's a good point. Hey, NYC Home is here. I think we're passing Fortress Investments. We are. This is the Alliance Bernstein building. Michael Novogratz's old hedge fund is in here. Fortress Investments. NYC Home says, hey Tom and chat, do any of you guys have any good first car recommendations for a teenager? Looking to get my kid a car soon and don't know what to look for. Don't really have a budget, but in reason. So NYC Home, I don't even own a car myself, so I'm just gonna have to tap out of that question, just in full honesty. I am not a car guy, but there's tons of people in the chat that are. I think we have, tons of people who know a lot of things about cars. I don't know, like a beginner car, maybe just get like a used car, like a Honda Civic or something. I don't know, something that's gonna run. What is the most reliable car brand? A Toyota? Like a Toyota Corolla, Camry? I mean, if it's a teenager, maybe get him something, him or her, I don't know. Maybe get him or her something that is, that they could beat up and ding up a little bit, right? Because chances are 16, 17 years old, it's probably gonna get a few bumps and bruises on the vehicle. So I don't know, maybe like a Corolla, something like that. I don't know anything about cars, but. All right, this is gonna be a cool shot here, everybody. This is 432 Park Avenue, but right in front of it, that is the Trump Tower. Kind of cool. Justin S. is also depends where you live. Oh, that's true, because the winters and all that. Subarus are good, 4-wheel drive. It's a good point, I didn't even think of that. Yeah, if you live in upstate New York in like Syracuse, Rochester, or Buffalo, you probably don't want to buy like a 4-door sedan. You probably want to buy a big SUV. Hey, Dan Zhang says, if your kid might live in a place with brutal winter, consider a Subaru. So Subarus have those hatchbacks, right? Like the Subaru hatchbacks. Zozo Bobs is a friend of mine. Toyota has over 300,000 miles. Whoa. Adam's like Buffalo, where I'm from. Yeah, I mean, I think Buffalo is the city in New York that gets the most snow. I think it may get the most snow in the country, I think. All right. We finally made it to New York City's Billionaires Row. You're looking at the skinniest residential apartment building in the world. This is 111 West 57th Street. This is called the Steinway Building. This is one of the most luxurious apartment buildings on Billionaires Row. Then you have 157, which is the Extel Group. You know, one thing I did notice though, and I do have to say about Billionaires Row, it is a very busy street at all times of the day and night. I think that would be its one sort of downside. 57th Street is a two-way street that cuts across the entire island of Manhattan. So you have two-way traffic going east and west, and it tends to be big industrial, you know, like this, like a big tractor trailer. Lots of noise. So even though you have these gorgeous monstrosity of buildings here, you are living on very, very busy street. So I think that would be one of the one of the downfalls, I would say. It's very loud here too, very loud on 57th Street. But if you guys are enjoying the live stream so far tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and click the subscribe button if you're new. We usually go live at 8:30 p.m. We're about to pass the Russian Tea Room as well as the Park Hyatt Hotel. Now, speaking of sectors in the economy and in the market that have been doing really good, it's been hospitality. Pizza sound isn't an issue the higher up you are. That's true. Man, that's the loudest tractor trailer I've ever experienced in my life. Well, I'll tell you this. I actually toured a unit in 157. It was a gorgeous unit, city facing, it wasn't a park facing view. And I noticed a lot of street noise. I'm not gonna lie. It was a gorgeous apartment, in 157 right on Billionaires Row, unbelievable. And even though it's obviously all soundproofed windows, you could still hear it in full transparency. So I don't know how that translates to the nighttime if you're trying to sleep, but look, this apartment was on the 42nd floor of 157, and it was pretty loud, not gonna lie. So, but speaking of hospitality, one of the most exclusive hotels in the city sits right inside 157. This is the Park Hyatt. So Hyatt trades under the ticker symbol H. You could tell the bottom floors are the hotels and the top floors are the residences. But it's a great location. It's right near Carnegie Hall. Central Park is essentially your backyard. I would say the thing that I was most impressed about, or I should say impressed with, about 157 were all of the amenities. Talk about unbelievable, okay? In every single room, if you rent or you purchase something at 157, you get 24/7, 365 access to every single amenity at the Park Hyatt. So you can order room service, you can order a private chef to come and cook you dinner in your unit. You have access to the saltwater pool, you have access to the gym, you have access to the spa, the hair salon. I mean, I could just go on and on. The place was unbelievable. And you have separate entrance and separate access to the hotel's restaurant, which is called the living room. So you don't even have to, in theory, right, if you have friends over or something like that, you don't even have to leave the building. You could just take the elevator directly to the living room, which is a great restaurant. It was an awesome tour. I would say people mainly probably buy those units as pied-à-terres, so to say. Very few primary residences. Oh wow, John Kelly says, I saw Springsteen at Carnegie Hall about 15 years ago. Showed up as a special guest to a show. That was a tribute to his music. Dude, that's cool, man. Wow, I didn't know that. That's awesome. I gotta see something at the Carnegie Hall. I feel like I'm always in the city, but very seldom do I actually do any like city activities. Hey, Lady Sarita is here. Chinook Winds, welcome. I think you guys are gonna like this. So this is 157, right? It was the original building to be built on New York City's Billionaires Row by the Extel Group, or the Extel Corporation. Well, Gary Burnett decided to one-up himself. This is Central Park Tower. This is 217 West 57th Street. And check out this thing. Look at how tall this apartment building is. Now, if you look all the way at the top, you'll see the top triplex, and it's actually in the clouds right now. And if you want to own the top triplex at Central Park Tower, Serhant has the listing for $250 million. $250 million is the listing. I have not toured that unit yet. I would like to see for myself, but it's an unbelievable building. If you think 157 is fantastic, Central Park Tower is really the epitome of luxury here in New York City. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable place. Hey, taxi cab, what's up? Good to see you. I think we may just make it to Lincoln Center. This is Broadway. I'm going to turn the camera to the right, and you're going to see the Trump International Hotel and Tower. This is a 5-star hotel that sits right at Columbus Circle. Beautiful building. I like how they expanded the bike lane here. Ooh, team, I actually gotta cut you guys loose early. I'm getting an urgent email, sort of like a fire drill I gotta go put out. But guys, thank you so much for joining tonight. If you enjoyed the live stream, feel free to join us tomorrow. You could hit that subscribe button. We will be live at 8:30. I want to wish you all a fantastic weekend. Have a very safe, happy, and healthy and relaxing weekend. You guys deserve it. It's been a very busy week, and it's been a very hot week. So enjoy your weekend. I mean that sincerely. And I will see you all tomorrow. So NBA Elias, thank you so much for joining us. Vivian, Brad's Brain, Adam, appreciated British Gray, Lady Sarita, Hawaii, Vivian, Victor, Madison 32, always appreciate you guys, DM, Chuck, have a great weekend, Adrian, Smee Media, always a bull market somewhere, you just need to know where to look. Get some rest, everybody, stay hydrated, stay safe, and enjoy your weekend. Thanks.